All right. Let's go ahead and call the meeting to order, please.
Thanks, Christie.
Thank you.
Roll call. Thanks, Chrissy. Gus isn't here. Jeff,
Yes.
Jay, Ryan,
Yes. Yes.
Bob, Linda,
Yes.
Jennifer's not here. Just excuse Will
I'm here.
and Tim. Here. I think Gus will be joining us late. Approve the agenda. I added, Jennifer from Spark is here, Olmsted. She's been here before. I think she was gonna come, a couple of meetings before, but, crashed on her bike, so she wasn't able to attend. She was riding here to get here real quick and then she cried. No, she wasn't. But she's okay, but she's here today to talk to us about Spark. So we'll add that to guests and put her on the agenda after the road. And pathways discussion. And again, with guests here, I'd like to put them at the beginning so they don't have to sit through our entire meeting if they don't want to. They can, but you don't have to. And then down below, I got summer constant contact email. I change that to winter, and then we'll talk a little bit about the smooch project as well. We'll just, I'll change it. Go through it.
And we had a discussion about millages and captures.
Sure. You want that at the,
Just a little bit.
Under discussion topics, I guess.
what is it? Each caption. Anything else to add, change? Where does that get presented? I'll add it under, some of these topics are just, just an update, they're not really discussion items. Okay, public participation. Is there anybody on Zoom that would like to speak? Anybody in the audience here?
Oh, you let them in? It looks like Pam Boyd is raising her hand. Okay. Oops.
Pam Boyd, a Scio resident. Do you mean to have somebody's laptop up and not mostly your picture?
Yeah. See if we can. Oops.
I didn't wanna, do I just log out until you get me on? Okay.
No. Well, I think what Pam's saying is you can't see that. It would be nice if they can see the email.
So if that's how you want it to be, okay, it was just kind of weird as to why you started the meeting with that up.
No live camera.
Yeah, well, it's small. And then also, can you update the roll call to add Tim Boggs in? Thank you. That's my comment.
Any other comments?
I think there's.
Oh, yeah.
Anybody else on Zoom first?
Nobody else on Zoom.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to,
Oh.
good, okay. Jillian Carey, in the DDA or on Jackson Road, I noticed that there's no ADA ramps. Would that fall under the DDA? I know there's some at Zeeb and Jackson, but the other roads along Jackson that the sidewalk comes to the road, there's no ADA ramps. And I'm not sure what the process is for that, but I'm assuming the DDA would be responsible.
I mean, Washington Road Commission's responsible. We can definitely look into that. We put the shelters up, we definitely make sure that they're.
Road Commission doesn't do sidewalks.
Crosswalks or?
No, ADA ramps where the sidewalk comes to the road. There should be an ADA ramp on each side.
What Bob's saying is that's in the road commission right away. And DDA can consider doing those and contributing to those, but we're not responsible for those.
Who could speak with the road commission about
Right,
that?
Bob, is
Yeah,
that?
we can talk to them,
Yeah, that's
definitely.
what I'm saying. We'll talk, we can talk
Okay.
about it. Good suggestion.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Which corner is it?
Oh, it's pretty much every side road that comes off onto Jackson.
Any other public comments? Get that, Brian, did you look, is the,
So the view's back on. Will, all we have to do at the top when it's Jennifer's turn is at the very top of that very top screen, there's those little tabs, just like different windows in a web browser. When it comes that time, I can switch it back for you guys.
Up here.
Other side, left side. Left, upper left-hand corner, but when it comes time, I can switch it back for
Okay,
it.
so you switch it to Jennifer's.
Yeah,
Okay, I
correct,
see
yeah.
what you're saying. Okay. Gotcha.
And Gus did say he's on his way.
good, thank you. And then let's go ahead and kind of get the guests we'll talk about. Let's look at the minutes from the last meeting. Correct or approve those. Kind of jumping around. Says approved on the top, but I think these are drafts.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from Monday, July 8th, 2024.
I have an amendment first though. Okay. These are stated to be the approved minutes.
Yeah.
So they'll become the approved minutes, right?
Yeah, that's what it's saying, yeah.
Oh, okay,
there's
sorry.
a draft.
I was reading, sorry.
Okay,
I'll second this motion.
approved.
I'll second this motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes, thank you. All right. So let's go right to, the Scio Road Advisory, introduction.
He's coming in, I saw he's parking outside.
So again, Scio has a separate board. When did you create that, Will? Roughly 2-3 years ago? The Scio Road Advisory Board.
It was reconstituted in 2021.
So it's been around for a little while, and again, they are looking at just I would assume maintenance and road work within Scio Township, and they wanted to come here and talk to us about Scio roads. And again, Linda's sitting with them, because Linda wears a couple different hats, so she's also on that committee.
Bob, you wanna come join us? Sure. Give them some faces. I'm sorry. Don't you? Well, the discussion at hand was collaboration, cooperation between the DDA and the Roads Advisory Committee.
In the road advisory committee resolution, it does state that the road advisory committee is to work collaboratively with the DDA. However, that does not say that in the DDA bylaws. So we're hearing bits and pieces from Linda because she provides us a report to the road advisory committee. So we're wondering what's the plan? And how, if the road advisory committee is included in this or not? I mean, we just want to get clear, so we know what we're doing, because we have a lot.
That's good. When it was formed, we thought that you were looking at all the roads in Scio Township. But talking to Linda at the last meetings, your committee wasn't looking at roads inside DDA. So for the last 2 years, we kind of took it on ourselves that the roads inside the DDA, as well as the trees inside the DDA, weren't inside Scio, they were only in the DDA. So we're glad you're here today, but the information that we've got in the past has said that you guys weren't looking at the DDA.
Well,
roads, so.
That's what we're trying to get clear on, because we thought that since the DDA was taking care of certain roads, you had the, what was it, Enterprise, and there was another one, and now Dino Drive and Medi. So we're in the process of creating a potential millage plan. I mean, we're working on the plan. We don't know what the funding is going to be. So we don't know if we're going to include or not, because there's been a lack of communication between, yeah.
Good.
Or,
Right, we need it. We all, you know, we always thought that you guys were, hey Gus. We always thought you guys were helping with all the roads, so it'd be good if we collaborated more on helping with all the roads. In the past, again, the DDA's helped with all these side roads. We've got about 9 side roads within the DDA that we've helped fund a lot of different ways. You know, some of it's been DDA money, some of it's been Washington Road Commission, some of it's been SIO money, a combination of all three has happened before, so.
Some of it's been SADs.
Some have been SADs, we've set up SADs before.
Well, and I think too, if the road advisory committee moves towards a different funding mechanism, say a millage, then that sort of raises other questions. So in the past, there was the township-wide SAD, and the SAD, the DDA doesn't capture a portion of that. But if the township went to a roads improvement millage, presumably the DDA would capture some portion of that. And so it sort of raises questions anyway about whom should be responsible.
it's 50%
Capture.
capture,
Currently.
really? Okay.
Well, it brings two questions to the table. The first one is, every year, the Washtenaw County Road Commission sends to Scio Township et al. A list of roads that they propose to improve in the following year. And in the past, they've both been combined as one list or separated out as the first agreement and the second agreement being residential local roads and commercial roads. That is the way it's been the last 2 years. So we would like to propose collaboratively that we, as a group, have a discussion about what roads we think need to be improved. Not that we disagree with what the road commission's coming up with. They have good data for why they're suggesting improvements, but we may have some improvements that we would suggest that they had not yet picked up on, or that we would put one in front of another in order of operations.
The roads in the past and within the DDA, before this last couple of years, were they all funded under special assessment? When there needed to be improvements, or was there just a long gap in between that they weren't taken care of?
Again, every road was funded differently, and we tried to do that, come up with some type of system, so it's always the same, but it just, the funding, the length of the road, the number of businesses on it is always different, so we've never really come up with a system that we can apply to all.
Well, in some cases, what happens is that the board of trustees will not put forth a special assessment district. In which case, the people in that road, along that road, for instance, are hanging out there. And they have to, some of the boards of trustees have said, the property owners on that road need to bring it to us because they're afraid it's going to be opposed. And in other cases, I think the SADs have been on April Drive, Park, Jackson Plaza, and Parkland Plaza, and Little Lake. Yet, I think we totally paid for some of the other roads, the other side streets in the DDA district. And I can't tell you exactly how that all always comes together, but really it's the DDA wanted to do projects, and we offered to split and pay part of the improvement of a road, but the Board of Trustees rejected the idea of I'm not sure what the word for it is. You can just form a special assessment district. It's up to the trustees, and then if it's opposed, then you have to go backwards. So, do I have that right, Will?
There's two ways for
Right.
the township to do a special assessment district. One is with a petition from the property owners, and the other is basically imposed by the Board of Trustees on the property owners, but correct, open to challenge by the property owners if they choose. And I think in the case of Enterprise Drive, I think that was approved in 2021. And that was, the cost was shared between the township and the DDA and
Road Commission.
maybe, yeah.
There was a,
I can't remember, that
There was a
cost
bag of money out
was
there that-
was split up,
Right,
but
we could get it done.
Medi and the more recently Dino and Medi Drive, the DDA is just paying the cost of repaving those.
and that's because putting together an SAD, we offered to pay like half of Dino Drive. And the people on Dino Drive didn't put forth proposal and the trustees did not put forth a proposal. So it was just not gonna get done and, you know, we were just finally frustrated and it's like, okay, we'll go spend the money. We'll spend all the money.
And what has the discussion been? I know this has been brought up because Linda has mentioned it to us the past couple of meetings. So what has the discussion been regarding roads? Or has it just been touched upon and not really as looked into deeply?
And we set, a few years ago, we set the DDA as a board set a goal for improving the side roads. Enterprise was the first one that we did, and then Dino was sort of in terms of priorities, that was highest, and then came Medi, and then came Stabler, I guess. But Stabler is sort of a special case.
That's a county road.
Well, it's also, I think everyone agrees, something's gonna happen in terms of development, in which case the road commission will likely go after whoever the developers are and, you know, require of them improvement on the road.
On
So-
Stabler Road, the primary, you're talking about North Stabler, right?
North Stabler, yeah.
And the primary landowner, one of the primary landowners there is South Township.
Yep.
So we've held off on that, but, so while I've been on DDA, we've done April Drive, Parkland Plaza, Little Lake, we participate in these, Jackson Industrial Drive. Well, of course, Jackson Road, Zeeb Road, North Zeeb, South Zeeb. Dino Drive, Enterprise Drive, Medi Drive, I missed anybody? I don't know, that's it.
Your history with the DDA goes way back.
But then, in other words, it's a progression of going and taking care of those roads, because it seemed to the DDA, it always seemed unfair that Jackson Road was the only road that was getting the benefit of the DDA. When the other individual properties are not as much, so. And those roads, as they're deteriorating, it's like, let's make our township look good.
So again, Dino Drive's a good example. So we tried to get the business owners, because a lot of people say these business owners should pay for their own roads, which I kind of understand. But they're pushing back at us, well, we pay taxes too. The taxes should pay their roads. So, you know, we contacted them, and then eventually we find some sources to fund the roads, which is either DDA money or hopefully Washington Road Commission or Scio or a combination to do the roads. So it's no different than what you guys are doing. We get a recommendation. We're not engineers here, so we get a recommendation from Washington Road Commission to do certain roads in our area. And then if we can help find the funding for it, then we'll try to get it done. But again, what we've heard from you guys is that, you know, we have our own money, so you guys weren't helping, you know, look at any of the roads inside the DDA.
That's not fully true. We didn't say that. We just,
I'm glad we'll collaborate, but the information that we got, even the last meeting, that, you know, we're gonna, you know, you guys aren't looking because we have our own money, so you don't want to even look inside the DDA. You're gonna help with roads on the outside, which is fine. I mean, as long as we're all understanding of who's helping with what, but if we can work together, that'd obviously be better.
exactly. So at this point, while the road advisory committee is looking at the next funding, but we have to have plans in order to move that way, if it is a millage or whatever. So we're trying to put that together and like, well, what about the DDA roads? Is that included or isn't it included? But we have to speak with you about that. So that's why we're here.
In the village, do we have to specifically list which roads will be improved?
No, not like a special assessment. It goes by the year. So that's why we need to have a plan, hopefully for 5 years to see which roads need to be improved.
It does offer, I mean, I hadn't really focused on this before, but it does offer an option if it's a millage rather than a special assessment. To sort of say, well, this portion of the millage is captured by the DDA. And the DDA is viewed as being responsible for overseeing improvements and maintenance of roads within the DDA district.
And then you'll have that 50%, you'll know every year. But there's the Headley rollback as well, but you can look at that going out, and then you'll know how much money you'll be able to put aside and which roads have a plan. And that's where we could help with the rotation of the projects, because it's not just a one and done deal. You have to maintain those roads over time. And you will get back to the point of, oh, here we are again, we have to re-gravel or you don't have gravel, but repave or whatnot.
Crack bill. Crack bill, or once we approve it, then you need to come back and look at it again within a few years.
It wouldn't be any different than what we do with Parks and Pathway millage right now, where they're just.
Again, we collect about $100,000 for parks and pathways that we try to use back for parks and pathways. Technically, we don't have to, but we try to, and we would do the same if there was a new millage for the roads.
Of course, all of that millage has to be board approved, so this is what the road advisory committee is working on to present to the board, and that will be up to them. So probably next year, it'll be in front of them. But in the meantime, if you are creating your own roads committee or subcommittee.
We were, because we maybe we don't have to now, but we were gonna do that because, again, we thought you guys were looking at our roads, but the information back from Linda every meeting is that you're not looking at the DDA road, so we're gonna take it on ourselves to put together a plan, just like you're talking about. So if we can integrate it together, it'd be even better.
Yeah, and I think that, with Linda, on both committees, but she's hearing from your committee, she's hearing from ours, and it's really not up to her, or we shouldn't put it on her to put it together. So that's why she has requested that we have this meeting. But maybe if you had 2 people on a subcommittee for roads, because you will still, if this, however it works out, but you'll still have to keep track of your roads and the maintenance and how much
9
money.
roads in the DDA. Again, you guys are taking care of the entire township, so we're focused on the DDA. That's our swim lane. So.
Yes, exactly.
So it's not hard to do. And we've done this for the past years, but it's interesting. It's, you can have that plan, but it's about the funding. Right? I mean, this road out here, Jackson Boulevard's a prime example. They got money from the feds to do that road. I get questions all the time. Why are they tearing up good concrete? But the funding was there.
And the primary roads, well, all roads are owned by the road commission. But they cannot by law, under Public Act 51, pay for our roads. So that's why we have to provide the funding. However, Jackson Road, Z, Baker, these primary roads are under the Washtenaw County Road Commission, and they fund those. So we just passed a millage, what was it, November or August 6th for the countywide roads, and then they can use that money to spend on our roads.
Right.
And then they get money from the feds as well. So we really don't need to do anything with those roads
Right.
financially. However, we have all these other roads we have to take care of.
Right, but again, the DDA started those roads. We're still paying on bonds for those roads. So, I think we want our roads at a certain level, we're gonna have to help finance them. Just life, Washington Road Commission doesn't have enough money to go around for the roads, the quality of roads that we want in our area, so looking at like even Park Road, I guess we're gonna finish. The contractors out there are gonna be part of the road. Have we figured out a way to do the rest of the park? Just from the back of the neighborhood up to Park or up to Zeeb?
OHM has provided the board with a study. At least part of the study. I mean, we're going back and forth, but we are not there yet. But, there is state funding, there's grants that we could be, petitioning for, our lobbyists to find money for that because it's kind of in a strange place. There's no road frontage by, parcels. And then it is a public road for the general public to use. So, yeah, we'll get there. But it's not just that, there's also pathways, and I believe the pathway is funded by the Parks and Pathways.
There's money that could be used from the Parks and Pathways millage to do the section of pathway along that segment of Park Road. There's also, I think, remaining about 700,000 of the MEDC grant that was secured several years ago with Representative Lazinski helping. So that's the pot of money that's kind of available for that project. And then the question is, the gap between that and what it would actually cost to pave that segment of Park Road. But you're right, OHM is doing engineering. The board approved sort of the final engineering for that. So once we have that, then we'll be able to go after funding or make more informed decisions about how much it will cost.
There would be eventually, sounds like a roundabout there at Park and Z. And that will be fully funded by the road commission. But
If we can put together a plan for the roads in the DDA, it'd be great.
I would just put an asterisk next to that I would expect the road commission to come back to the DDA and say, can you chip in for the roundabout? That's what they do.
The answer would be no.
Well, it'll be an answer by a future DDA, so.
yeah, because half of that would be in the DDA, but the other half is not in the DDA because that's the cutoff. If I remember correctly?
That intersection is, I think, in the DDA, but I don't know. I don't know how you would sort of define where the boundary is.
Bob, do you have any insights or questions?
Well,
or-
my big question is fundamentally, there are exclusive roads, maybe of those 9 that are business exclusive, correct?
Yeah, a lot of them are.
All right, so to my way of thinking is, we need to determine, should the funding just come from those businesses? Those businesses decided to reside in Scio Township for a reason. And now those roads to me are private roads in all intents and purposes. Because they're exclusively for those businesses. So my way of thinking is those businesses gotta maintain the roads and not count on Scio taxpayer dollars to pay for it.
But we could extend that to being every single residential road, every court, every cul-de-sac. And where does that stop?
No, you can't, because you're making a profit on those businesses. That's the difference. It's not a residence. You've chosen to reside in Scio and run a business for a reason. You didn't select Chelsea, you didn't select Ann Arbor. Okay? So from my way of thinking, as a taxpayer and as a resident of Scio, and as an engineer, this is where I think you get the benefit. I don't get the benefit as a resident.
Do if you use those businesses.
Well,
But the difference is that these are all public roads. If it was actually private, then the government could not touch them, but they are public roads, no matter who uses them. And within the DDA, there is that 50% capture, which they take from those businesses.
I hear you, that there's a different philosophy. These businesses too think they pay taxes for roads. Fundamentally, right? I mean, that's, again, there's about 33 businesses there. Scio's one of them because we got the park at the end. We sent some nice letters. We went around personally. We just wanted them, we didn't even want them to pay all of it, it was about $3,000 wanted to collect from all of them. And it was a big pushback. I mean, they said we pay taxes. Their philosophy is just like you. They think they pay taxes to pay for those roads.
And their taxes support the parks, and they don't use the
Yeah, and
parks.
Just saying, there's other.
I want to see if it's on a use basis.
what proportion should it be?
33%.
They could.
Yeah, work out.
So
The other
Bob,
part of that is if you're gonna locate in Scio Township and think that you have to pay for your public roads, you're gonna think twice about locating in Scio Township. You just are.
I think businesses are leaving Ann Arbor to come here because of some of that pushback, so I think we
For
can.
now.
Right.
Taxes in Ann Arbor out of sight, that's a whole separate.
Hey, that's why we like to keep them.
Till Ann Arbor, until Scio goes Ann
I
Arbor. right?
think, I think there's 2 points to your question, which it's a good question. One of them is, I think it's harder for some of these roads that already exist. If you're talking about a new road that had not yet been built. I think legally, I don't think we're required necessarily to do anything by statute. You guys would know that better than me. But I think if you, probably a process to make a public road a private road. I don't know how that works. I'm not a road attorney, but I think that's where it gets a little tricky. But I'm not necessarily against it. I mean, if you're Bob, I know, and some other people went around, we collected all this, we collected some money from DNR Drive. I think it was like between $20,000 and $30,000 is what we got before it was returned. 5? Oh, okay, well, so. That was after trying for the better part of a year. That's my only concern is,
And I do think
and I
Washington,
don't think it's a bad idea.
Washington Road Commission is kind of late in getting those numbers to us. It's usually January or February, isn't it? So maybe being proactive and talking to them towards the end of the year for 2025 would be better.
Oh, yeah, they request that as early as possible, so we can even begin right now.
Yep.
And it took us, even though we were ahead last year, it took right to the end, for it to be finalized for the road advisory committee, so. Okay, well, I guess, there will be more discussion.
Yeah, and I think we'll get a couple people from our board to help and have some joint meetings and discussions, but.
You know, if a public road could become a private road?
I've never seen it done. I would say that the businesses on a public road would probably not be excited about having.
You'd have to vacate it, and then you'd have to have a contract for all the owners on that road. My understanding is, I've
A
seen
unanimous.
roads vacated before,
Oh,
but
like,
typically by one owner.
yeah, like the road for suburban lithium that was on side of the.
Oh, Nancy Drive?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would make sense, but I think it'd be harder if you had any more than a handful of people to get them to agree to that. I think it's an interesting idea, and I think it's one way to solve some of the road funding problem. I think also there needs to be taxpayer education, what your taxes actually go to, because a lot of people
Yes.
think they go to certain things and they don't always go to those topics.
General Law Township, we don't collect a lot of taxes. But I'm sure the road commission would be happy to give up some public roads, less for them to take care of. But. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be in touch.
Thanks.
I'm gonna put Jennifer's
Yeah.
screen back up.
Next, we got Jennifer from Spark. Can you share that?
This is just a copy of the report that we sent to Will in June, with an invoice for $5,000. And then Will said, actually, the DDA provides the funding. So I'm kind of here to thank you. And I don't know if you sent this report to committee members or not, but
Everybody familiar with Spark, right? I think you're right.
Well, Jennifer's presented.
And we've donated to Spark since I've been on the board for.
so yeah, I'll be quick, but I can be longer, but you have a full agenda. I'm happy to come back to any future meetings. So basically, I'm just here to thank you for your $5,000 for supporting regional economic development. So Spark is for the entire Washtenaw County. I always tell my developers, businesses, and my municipalities that I'm location agnostic, except as long as you come somewhere in Washtenaw County. So I also tell my brokers, I'm location agnostics. I don't care what building you come in, I take all calls and help people. So we want to thank you for your support of regional economic development. So with your $5,000, Will Hathaway sits on our public sector committee, which is all of our local government, not all, but our pro-development, majority of our cities and townships who participate in economic development. We meet 4 times a year and Will participates in that. We've had a legislative summit for the last 3 years that all of we're advocating for economic development. We also did a special housing summit this year. But basically the benefits that you get is that we provide your sites and when people are looking for, when businesses are looking for sites, you participate in our committees. You have access to all of our regional data. You can go to our website and get any of our industry reports. We like to think of ourselves as an extension of your staff. So we're there to call you if Will has a question, like I know when we were working on another project about how a TIF worked or, you know, incentives, we can help. And over, you know, in our report that we gave to you between 2012 and 2024, we've worked on 23 successful projects. Ones that I've worked on are Nexian and Navitas, and then MIHQ is a benefit to all of our, I always say this at every meeting, but is a benefit to all of our region because we are seeing right now in this a lot of office space that people want very flexible spaces. And so I tell all of our landlords, like, I know you want a 10-year lease or a 5-year lease, but some of our small companies and specifically in life science who need lab space are looking for flexible space. And once you get them in the door, a lot of times they grow, which we found in examples. So that's sort of that. And we also provide a benchmarking report for the whole region. So again, if you're ever looking for data, we have a permanent full-time director of research that can provide you with that demographic data. And we're currently some special initiatives that we're working on. We were voluntold by the state of Michigan to work on a childcare coalition. So we're actually just at our last public sector meeting, put together a report on helping our municipalities with some of their zoning to be more helping with the issue of childcare. And I talked about us hosting the legislative breakfast that Will, I know, attended. And just gonna go through this really quick. And our entrepreneurial services, which I'm not on that team, we actually get funding from a different source, but we promote the startup community and innovation through, we actually have our own TIF through the Local Development Finance Authority to work with our startup community. I know, Bob, you've sent me a couple referrals to that.
Yeah, they've been helpful with just some startups that I work with, just helping with funding and everything, so they have been definitely useful for some business, the business community.
So if you need me back at another meeting or anything, but here again, I'm just thanking you for your support and putting a face to a name.
You, Jennifer, I have a couple questions.
Sure.
Real quick. So you got voluntold to work at childcare, that's interesting. You're aware 242 is planning on hopefully relatively soon having a childcare facility.
I don't know that, and I didn't know that, but that's good. So we actually were voluntold, there was funding through the state of Michigan. I think they use ARPA dollars, and we convened a group of municipalities and childcare providers. And we have a report, but I definitely would, if I can get the number to the 242, I mean, it's definitely a supply issue is one of those, and obviously an issue of pay, but this, so good to know that a new one is coming on board. That's
They
good.
came to planning commission a couple months ago. They got asked by the planning commission just because of that is obviously on Mark and Linda's site and dioxin. They have to have an outdoor play space and there's some concern about moving their stuff. So it was verified testing. I think they'll probably come to the board for approval in the nearish future. If that all gets done. I guess the other question is, I know you said Will serving on the public sector committee, is that tied to him being supervisor, or is that completely unrelated?
That is tied to him. I mean, it's depending on your level of staff. They're usually a staff at the community. So for example, it's in some cases, like in Chelsea, like the mayor comes, but also their economic development person comes. In the city of Ann Arbor, it's their head of building services, so it's really up to the community.
Okay. I was just gonna say, Jillian's gonna be the supervisor, she's sitting behind you.
So,
You got privacy.
we definitely want, we don't pick. We kind of go to the community going, we have a spot on our public sector committee. Who do you think is gonna be the most beneficial person to be on that committee?
Okay, that makes sense.
Or maybe Ryan.
You guys can draw straws.
All right, we'll work.
Although I do recommend participating in, I suppose you could look in terms of sending more than one person. I know Chelsea had two people at the meeting the other day, both the township manager or.
Yeah, we just
city
want it to be
manager.
consistent, I mean, it's developing those relationships, sharing of best practices and things, so.
So just to add value to what Spark brings to us for the $5,000 every year, we in Scio don't have an economic development director position as such. But Spark sort of assists us in presenting Scio Township as well as other communities to people that come to the area looking to place new businesses. And that can be international as well as people from other parts of the states.
Yes, I mean, a lot of times when a company's looking to locate, they're looking at drive distances, freeway thing. My favorite thing is, when we were having the grand opening for Bacher, he said, well, I'd like to invite the mayor of Ann Arbor to our grand opening. I said, well, that's really nice, but he probably won't come because you're in Scio Township. You know what I mean? So we're, I always remind our townships, that's why it's really important to work together. At the end of the day, I mean, of course, companies are looking at their taxes and their bottom line, but they're looking at a broader thing than just your township lines when they locate a business.
A lot of people seem to think that Scio Township is really Ann Arbor. That was all over the event when President Biden came to Ann Arbor. Oh, you're in Scio
You said
Township.
you don't work on the entrepreneurial side, but you guys do a lot with MEDC, right?
Yeah, they fund all functions of economic development. So I always like to call it the three-legged stool. So we focus on like pre-seed development, then like capital development, and then our focus is more on larger companies, the business development team that I'm on, business development, business interaction.
MEDC has really cool programs that most people have no idea exist.
Yeah, we try to work, because Google AdWords is headquartered in Ann Arbor, we get funding from them and, when people go, we try to drive like our attendance, but one thing I didn't pull up, which I need to, is like, we could do zip code of like how many of your residents attend like our events, because we are required to keep track of all of that data.
Good. Any other questions? Let's keep it on. Talk about style. Thank you. People check out, I know, you sent us that in the summer. We'll get that out.
And I'm looking for that, the document that you were talking about, the report. I'm not seeing it, so.
I'll resend it again.
Yeah, if you would send it
I'll
again,
forward
then
it.
we can forward it out to everybody.
Thank you. We'll go back down to, kind of skipping around again, but Spark, DDA's chair report, I don't really have anything to add that we're not covering. Again, obviously, a lot of the questions in the community is about the construction out in Jackson, so. But I think they're getting it done, hopefully, right, by the end of October at least,
That's the projection.
so.
Mid-October.
Yeah.
Getting done by us. There's saw cutting this morning.
Yeah,
Yay.
so that's so. It is what, we can't, it's out of our hands there when their time frame, but I think they're moving along pretty good. Township supervisor report, Will, you got anything to add?
I think if there's anything that's sort of specific to DDA. Well, there's questions and it'll come up later in the agenda about village capture. But I think the DDA should at least sort of have before it, not necessarily to take action today, but just be thinking about. And we can wait until we get to that, or I can bring it up now, whatever you would like to do.
You're already there, let's go.
Okay. Well, so we have a.
Excuse me, can you turn the camera back to the,
Oh,
Yes.
thank you.
Yeah, that's fine, yes. It's fine.
Yes.
So we have several specific millages for specific purposes that the DDA captures. And question has arisen, how the DDA would like to approach that, because there is an option for the DDA to take the step of saying, we won't capture this particular millage. No?
No. I don't believe that's true.
Or to turn it back to the township.
If you do not capture from one, you cannot capture from any.
Well, okay, so there's a question.
You've got something new that
Let's explain what the capture is, where it, how much it is, what percentage, you're kind of going
Yeah,
right to the nitty gritty.
all right, right.
Now,
So,
maybe I can do it because I'm pretty simple, so. You know, again, we capture 50% of the tax revenue inside the DDA from some entities.
WCC,
The college,
the college, the county, all township villages and the
and
libraries.
the library.
Do not capture from any of the schools.
We used to capture.
Or the
don't even-
ISD.
So we capture 50, and they agreed to all this back when we built the road, and it's at 50%, and now there's discussions on, you know, are we capturing too much, too little? We can go up to 2% or.
Technically, you
We
can
go-
capture 100% if you want.
So we agree to this 50% level capture to help fund. And if we don't have a DDA, Scio would lose that revenue. It doesn't go back to the trustees. It would go back to the entities that we collected from. So there's discussion on whether that's too much, too little, which is kind of mind-boggling to me, but that's where we're at, and that's what Will's gonna discuss.
well, and there's all sorts of complications about the base and how you calculate that and so on. But this came up, maybe I should back up and say this came up recently because the township has placed on the ballot a millage for the fire department. Which is a change, because in the past, we used a special assessment. Special assessments are not captured by the DDA, but assuming that the voters approve this millage in November, then the DDA would be capturing a portion of the funding that was intended for the fire department. And so there's that raises a question. You know, is there a way that the DDA could make that, you know, sort of turn that revenue back over? And I maybe have faulty information, but I understood that there was a mechanism whereby the DDA could say, we will not accept this revenue, or we will turn this revenue from that particular millage back over to the township for the use of the, you know, funding the fire department and its costs. And so that is one question. I just want to put it out there for the DDA to think about. Obviously, the specifics, we would have to look into whether that's possible, what implications it has for other revenue.
But if it's not possible, why should we discuss it? Shall we first figure it out if it's possible?
Well, there's one other way that is possible, and that is what Bob was saying earlier, and that is, you know, any revenue that comes in from a specific millage, the DDA could, you know, could make a commitment to spend it for that purpose. But it could only spend it.
Was 10 years. The pathway millage was 10 years, and we captured part of that, about $100,000 worth. But we can use that for any project we want, but we try to put $100,000 back in to the pathway project
Parts of
within that,
pathway.
and only in the DDA area. So, but we don't, again, that's what, so.
So what is the question from the township to us now?
because of the fire department.
So they wanna take that money back from
Yeah.
the fire department, make a long story
They wanna
short.
use it for the fire.
I don't wanna sit here for the next 3 hours.
I got you.
Okay, so,
I guess I'm talking too slow for you guys.
Shorter cook.
okay, so why don't we capture the rest of the 100%, give them the difference? We can capture up to 100%, we're capturing 50, let's capture 100, give them the other 50. Okay? I mean, what's wrong with that? But obviously, if we cannot give them the original 50 that we do,
Right now, they're planning way down the road. Right now, where they wanna put the fire department is not in the
DDA.
DDA. And we can
The
only use the
second
money in
fire
the
station.
area, so there's a lot of back work that needs to be done before, even if this did happen, to make it happen.
someone wanna spend the next hour talking about it, or not,
But Will wanted to bring it up, but
I
I think between now and the end of the year, there'll be a lot of planning.
It's, I think it's, Gus, just if you bear with me for just a second, I think it's an important thing for the DDA to consider whether these special millages established by the district, how we want to handle them. And the capture means that the DDA could spend the money. We could either spend it on things that are related to those millages or things that are unrelated to those millages. But we could only spend it on things that are occurring or within the DDA district. What I think the township would hope that the DDA would consider, if it's possible, is some way of handling that captured revenue so that it can be used by the township for those purposes for which the millages were created outside of the DDA district or inside of the DDA district. And that's the thing that I guess we need to get more information about. Sandy's saying that it's not so
Can't
simple.
go outside the DDA, it's just.
Cannot go outside the DDA district.
Will
Well, but what about buying equipment for the fire
You
department?
can buy equipment.
That's for site specific.
Approximately,
If the fire department is in the DDA district.
approximately $400,000 a year, what we're talking about, by the way.
Without going too far down this path, because I can sense that the patience for getting into this is at this point, and the amount of information is limited. I think it's a question for the township attorney about whether there are other ways of handling this.
Yes.
Or for the DDA's attorney.
I heard the rumblings of this already, so I've done a little bit of work, but again, like, if the DDA is gonna spend money on the fire department, which is not a, economic benefit to the community, it needs to go in front of the public, there needs to be some other steps going along, so. But I think we'll definitely, this will be a hot topic that we'll look into for next meeting in November.
You and I were hoping to put some proposals out. The only other thing I wanted to raise while we're touching on this topic is the voters just recently approved the renewal and the restoration of the transportation millage. And that is sort of presents a particular issue for the DDA because so much of the transportation millage is spent within the DDA because the bus route goes down Jackson Boulevard. That's really what we're paying for. And the DDA capture is about what, 50,000 to 60,000 a year sort of projected out. And there's some question about using those funds in the past.
Capture, which.
Bus mill.
From the millage.
Yeah, that's the capture from the transportation millage. And so I want to put that out there too, just so that it's, a marker for the DDA to consider because we are being asked by Wave, which is the provider of transportation services sort of for the Meyer section of Jackson Boulevard West for additional support. And that's a question that I think the DDA could consider whether to use some or all of that money. Part of the advantage of using that money and using it through the agreement with Ann Arbor Area Transportation Authority, the so-called purchase of service agreement between the township and the authority is that it leverages additional dollars from MDOT. So it's something to think about. I know in the past, the
My
DDA
comment
has
is
used it for capital improvements of
I want the
bus stop.
bus to go all the way down to Baker Road, come back, and Myers does too, pick up people there, just bring them down here, we just need a little more simpler route.
I mean, the AATA.
And I've talked to
The
them.
problem with
We've got 3 or 4 entities talking to AATA in different directions, cause you've got So I
Well,
think,
it's a
again, if
large-
you want DDA money, I think you should have input from DDA money.
Well, exactly. So this is the other part of that, and this is on the agenda for tomorrow night. Sort of a first step towards that is the creation of a transportation committee of some kind to look at these kinds of issues and do so on an ongoing basis. We had an ad hoc committee that was set up specifically to look at the millage renewal. But that body is sort of, you know, anticipating, and it's time to think of it in the long term. I think in my view, there should be DDA representation on a transportation committee. So I think that's something for the DDA board to think about. But these are all questions that are gonna be coming up in the future. I'm really, all I'm trying to do, Gus, is sort of put these things out there on the table for the DDA board to be
It's good.
aware of
Good.
and thinking
So you
about.
got we got the bus millage as well as the firehouse millage that's not in the DDA. Sandy.
So
Okay.
did I already hear that we're capturing half as much millage as we could? Yeah.
Yes.
And the fire want to take the rest. Got it. So step one to fold the DDA. So, okay.
Well, right now, the fire funding is through a special assessment, so the DDA is capturing zero of the fire funding. Because it's shifting to a millage, assuming that the voters approve it, the DDA would start capturing revenue that it hasn't captured in the past, so it's not as if it's something that we have that we're losing.
Okay.
All right, sorry. We'll look at these subjects for the next meeting.
Okay, if I may, as far as the bus service goes, you need to check the DDA plan as well as with the attorney, because back in the 2004, 2008 board member service, and I think Jay was the only one still here that's on this, was there then, that the DDA paid for a study, which
Did a bus
means they
study.
paid for a year of that bus to run to see if the membership was there or not. There was something that they
It was
weren't,
a little shorter than that, Sandy. It was, the trustees that were elected in 2000, I believe. It was 2004.
4 to 8, yeah.
Just before the reelection came up, they promised to do bus service. It came to PDA and they wanted us to provide bus service. We decided that we would do a bus study, and the bus study showed that we spent $108,000 on it, as I recall, something like that. And the bus study showed that per rider, we were paying about $8 because it was a free bus. Or it's 50 cents or something like that. It was really inexpensive, just to test to see if the bus would work. And at $8 per rider, we decided that was not something that DDA wanted to sponsor.
But there was something
There was, I'll tell you. okay,
legally
there was a legal thing.
speaking,
At that time,
that they could pay for a study but not the service.
well, at that time, Wave was considered rural. Wave could not go inside Zeeb Road. AATA could not go west of Zeeb Road. And it was considered a rural bus service versus an urban bus service. And I don't know how that's changed.
Well, it's 20 years ago, so.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So if that hasn't changed, and at the time, Wave came in and accused us of stealing their ridership because it was a different bus service.
Oh, gosh.
You know, they were taking away the revenues and we had to pay them some money, and they basically DDA said, okay, we'll give you some money. So I mean, they kind of burned a bridge with DDA. So
I think things have changed a lot since then. Wave is now running up and down Jackson Boulevard,
Yeah.
doing side roads, and so I think
So we got
there's-
redundant service is what you're saying.
there's an effort to make a connection between AAATA and Wave service that will provide contiguous service along Jackson Boulevard. It's much cheaper to do that than it is to extend AAATA service out to Baker Road. That is cost prohibitive.
It disrupts our routes too.
It's 4 miles, the average bus costs $200 an hour to run. It's
Well, in any case, I think what we're starting to reveal is that there's a lot to unpack as soon as you start talking about all these transportation issues, and that's why it really does merit having a dedicated committee. I think the DDA has a role on that. I would think that the DDA should have a role on that committee, should be represented on that committee, but that's a question for the Board of Trustees. It may not come to the Board of Trustees until after November, so who knows, but I just wanted to sort of put it out there because I know the DDA has an interest in transportation.
Yes, but part of my point was if it's not in the DDA plan, and this goes for the fire issue as well, they cannot spend the money on it.
Well, that applies to all sorts of things.
I'm just saying.
Plans kind of, yeah.
Those are
The
things.
work,
that you-
right.
I know, and we have a long overdue
Agenda.
overhaul of the DDA plan too, so that, yes.
Things in the, yeah.
In any case, I wanted to bring it up, I wanted to put it on the table, I think it's on the table, and we can move on to other things on the agenda.
That's good. Back to on. Okay. All right, so we're gonna look at both the bus millage and the fire millage that are coming, so. All right. Any other questions? Marketing committee, we're gonna pass that, I think, and then let's get to landscape, Gus, what's going on up there?
The guys are pulling up all the stuff, like all the trees like we agreed on. They're start planting the trees and see the areas that need to be hydro-seeded.
So again, they're changing the turnaround where the new apartment buildings are, kind of by you guys, and did they give us trees? What are they doing?
Yeah, they're planting the trees. I talked to John over there and, I believe John, right? His name, and, I gave him the trees, what trees he agreed to it, and he says that that's the trees I want to plant. He wanted to know what species we wanted.
They put trees in, looks like
Yeah,
last week.
so we would agree on it.
Do you got an invoice or anything?
I do have the invoices for the half of the work that was to be done, all the removal of that. And the waterings, they water them, and I guess they did a couple waterings, and I noticed they look much livelier than they were before. They were about to die. And the trimming of the trees, I do not have another proposal, it was $8,500, and he needs to trim 70 trees and yank 10 of them. Here's the invoice, if you wanna look at it.
So that, I wanna add the invoice to the landscaping today, to their bills.
Okay, you can add it over here to this one,
So
here. These are the
everybody sees it,
invoices.
we'll add it.
Yeah, these are the invoices for, okay, now. There are some trees out there that I show you, and I worked on it, right? I took pictures, I have no idea what they are. Okay, maybe Linda knows, they're not brown, they're not green, they're nothing.
Gus and I drove around.
Where
and
are
looked at
they,
them. I am not, a tree expert in any means, but again, he does say, like trimming, they should be 7 feet high, right, at least, so you can see across. So there are some trees.
The ones coming up by Baker, where they planted the new ones, they still need to trim the other.
Well, that's exactly,
They look, even coming here, they look pretty.
I'm like, what do you gotta trim? Driving around, you can definitely see that they need to be trimmed.
Yeah, they look.
Yeah,
they should be.
Even
Lamar's up on it.
$8,500 a trim.
What they are, neither anybody.
70 trees. Okay, I told him to get two.
The guy's gonna drive 3 miles, Jeff, all along 3.5 miles, all along the boulevard.
Anyway.
You could ask them to trim them and see if they come back. Or we can.
Those trees, I have no idea what they are. If we wanna approve them, the guy wants 9,200 to pull them out. Me and Bob drove them out. I have no idea what they are.
Yeah, they are not like, again, I think less is more, so I like
Junk.
clean.
So they are.
There's like groups of, and it's all up that way, so I don't know.
I
if
have
we
no idea what they are. They're not trees, they're not bushes, and they're not green, they're not brown. What are they?
I
Jay?
take it.
Question.
Those are my property.
What are they? They're not trees, they're not, they're
It's
everything.
10 beds, with 10 to 12 bushes per bed.
Again, we got rid of the big green bushes are all gone, so it's gonna be similar to the other side of the boulevard. The east side, so that bill is in here, but whether we're gonna do the trimming is a separate bill. We wait, yeah.
I move that we accept the estimate for the tree trimming
I second it.
with the $8,500.
It is. I would like to point out that there are some oaks in the boulevard and we can't trim oaks before November 1st because of oak wilt. in the state of Michigan. So we need to make sure they understand that.
I mean, I would hope that they should know that, right?
If you don't specify it, they
Right.
go ahead and
They
trim
just
them.
whack them.
Yeah.
Don't cut the oaks
Yeah,
Before what?
yet.
November 1.
So how do we identify for them which trees are not to be cut before that deadline?
Give them an oak.
Pictures of oak leaves.
I'm serious. I mean, in the past, we've had like even like a member of the board of trustees who knows trees go around and.
Put pink ribbon on them,
I
yeah.
was gonna say, somebody needs to put ribbons on, Linda. You know, you.
I think it's supposed to be traditionally a yellow ribbon around the oak.
Right,
There we go.
Yellow ribbon.
Being something else.
It can't be that big. But there, you know, going that way, there's a lot of different types of trees that need to be.
Well, there's a lot of trees that need to come up so they can mow underneath.
So exactly
Drive down
Yes,
the road,
it
there's a lot of-
I didn't think so, but there are.
There were 70
There's a lot.
trees that need to be trimmed. I only counted 12, so the guy, when he went out, priced them, he says 12, and I drove with him, he says, there's 70, he says, and I need to yank 10 out, 10 that are dead. So, which, you know, even though I drove up and down 3 times, I only counted 7, then I went back with him with 10. So, you know, they gotta be 7 feet and up.
Will they shape the trees or are they just trimming up?
I'll
the-
just trim them.
Just trimming the canopy.
Right. Then, you know, if they shape the trees on any buckets, they need different service.
All right, so we've got a second,
Yes.
right?
Okay, wait,
Discussion,
who was the first?
Jay, so we're adding, we've already got the other, the main
So we're
bill
adding this to
is
the bills?
and, yeah. And then we're gonna add the tree trimming for. I don't know, it's
To accept the proposal.
Separate proposal for $8,500.
So we're making 2 motions or one
Just
motion?
one.
One motion
The other-
for landscape
We already
cost.
approved the main landscape. 3 meetings ago.
And is this a motion to add that to the bills to be paid
No.
or is this just separate?
It's a proposal.
Okay,
Right?
Yeah.
That we approved, they move forward with that.
okay.
Right? All those in favor, say aye, do we got
I-
a?
No, roll
Aye.
call,
You
roll
need to
call,
take a
roll
roll
call. Yes.
Yes. Tim?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Linda? Bob,
Yes.
yes. Motion passes, thank you. Good job, Gus.
Good job.
You must have drove around the boulevard like 90 times with all those trees.
But down, 20 times today, I was taking, even today, I was taking pictures, people were honking behind me.
I thought we were gonna get hit when you're driving.
Yeah.
And then next landscaping, water. So, Will, you wanna bring us up to speed on what the park out back, the discussions are? What's going on? I'll let you do that.
Sure. Well, so DDA paid for, work by Johnson Hill, a firm to come up with concept drawings for Township Hall Park. Those, 3 different concepts served as the basis for a conversation with the Parks, Preserves and Pathways Committee and, the primary user of the park at this point, the Scio Flyers, which has been using the park for, I don't know, 40 years or so. The input from that conversation, which occurred at the Parks, Preserves and Pathways Committee meeting, was then sort of fed back to Johnson Hill. They are working or will be working on new concepts that incorporate all of that input. And so that will come back to the Parks, Preserves and Pathways Committee and to the DDA, if there are people on the DDA who are interested, for sort of the next phase of that conversation. Just to give an example of the feedback, the Scio Flyers reacted to the concept drawings that showed different orientation of takeoff and landing by saying, no, that really wouldn't work for them because it was crucial to have takeoff and landing of their, whatever they're flying, to going east-west as opposed to north-south. So they're sort of working that into the concepts. There was a desire to sort of see a concept that showed a dog enclosure, in addition to the current path where people are walking their dogs, so that dog owners had a place where, in theory, they could let their dogs run off leash, but not, just sort of everywhere. And also I think there was interest in seeing if, in addition to playing fields, there was a way to incorporate a pickleball court. So those are some of the things that they're talking about, but there were also other things about sort of relocating some of the shelters, removing additional parking from the interior of the park, and sort of relying on the existing parking. I think that's pretty much everything.
Yeah. And again, the DDA got involved because we saw the potential for economic impact to our restaurants, our hotels, all those things. But I just don't think the park committee is ready for that kind of development. And we use examples, Chelsea's doing it, they're getting the business community to fund their park. We could do that here, but I just, you know, I think we're glad to help. We hired the architects for that, but I think they're a little bit of a ways away from the spot where we can help with economic development. You know, they're gonna answer, I think the first features will be, you know, for keeping the flyers there and maybe there's some other walkways or something, but not a big impact for, you know, the economy here.
Parks has to come up with some funding from their budgets, right?
Oh, yeah, the parks funding has always been a part of this. In fact, they have over $200,000 budgeted during this fiscal year for that particular project. So it's, you know, the idea, I think originally when the DDA put money in the budget for this was that maybe there was an opportunity to go forward with playing fields, or that kind of level of development during this fiscal year, but you're right, I don't think that the parks group, in part because of the gap with directors, is in a position to move forward with that level of development this year. Another way of saying what you just said.
Well, it's good though. It's, you know, it's a beautiful piece of property, so. Good. I think, you know, getting more people to use it would be good. All right, any other questions on that? The other things are just kind of follow-ups again. Constant contact, we're slowly collecting email addresses, so we get a few more all the time, and if I'm out and about and ask them for, just to put them in the system, so. Again, I think it's gonna be low contact, maybe twice a year, just to let them know we're here and, you know, just give them some recommendations on sidewalk cleanup or mowing or something. And then again, we still have that new tree fund and the road committee. We just talked to the road committee and hopefully we'll come up with a solution to monitor all our roads a little bit better. And then on the backside, we'll get right to the bills and, let me just,
You said smooch.
yeah, I did have smooch down here, so I think we're close to being done with the smooch project again. That's a grant we got, what year was that?
2021.
2021, we got a grant. We didn't get it. It was a grant from the state of Michigan through Eagle for an environmental cleanup project that's been going on. We went over and looked at it, and I think they're close to ending it. We get quarterly updates on the process and how it's coming, so, and it's been successful, and I think that Jan lady that kind of brought it to our attention, you know, we could find other projects and areas in the DDA that might need some help cleanup. I think she knows how to get the funding from the state to help with the area, so good contact.
And the original grant from 2021 was expanded, so additional money was added by the state. As the project unfolded.
So that was the only thing I had down. So let's go to the bills. Finances, the sheet.
Okay, so for the list of bills, we've got Ann Arbor Spark. Added this morning, I got in the mail a bill from the attorney for $390. And then we have payment for the park master plan that there is some board of review chargebacks that we have to pay back. And with the addition of the landscaping bills, the only other thing is the bond payment that will be paid in October. Won't be paid today, it'll be paid in October. So that brings the total up to $1,504,154.77.
Pretty soon you're talking real money.
Talking real money.
So, I know you probably know. So roughly the bonds, there's two different bonds. So the one's gonna be paid off in a couple of years,
Yeah.
right? And then it'll drop down. And then the other one will be paid off 2028.
28 or 29.
29,
It's
I
fiscal
think
year
it's-
29.
Okay,
It was in the audit, I think it was 29.
I think it's fiscal year 29. The bond payment would actually be October of 28, I think. And at that point, if the DDA life has not been extended by the future board, it will come to a close.
right.
And just so everybody knows what happens, when the DDA comes to a close, any money left over in the DDA unspent must be proportionately returned to each of the units it was captured from.
So again, our plans, I think, next year, we're gonna wait until things are moving along, but trying to extend the DDA for a couple different reasons if we needed to issue bonds, you know, when these bond attorneys said, Bob, you can't issue bonds, your DDA is done in 10 years, you can't have a 20-year bond, so extending the DDA will give us the ability to issue bonds only if we need to, obviously. And then again, it should be extended, it's revenue to the community to be used, you know, for the community. I don't know why they would end the DDA, but there's talk of, you know, everywhere. Other cities as well, you know, is it viable or not, so.
Keeping money out.
But we would look at hiring a firm to help us do that, there'd be public meetings and trying to talk to the community about the benefits of the DDA and extending it, so. But it's gonna obviously be around until the bonds are paid off.
Sandy, out of curiosity, we have a negative receivable of $263,000.
It's only because, the summer revenue has not been booked.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
So I have a question too on the cash and equivalents. We've got what rate are we doing on our money market?
The Bank of Ann Arbor one.
Yeah, yes.
It's off the top of my head, it's either 4.67, 4.87, it's something like that.
And as far as the Comerica investment,
That it goes.
is that a CD or something?
Commercial paper,
It's commercial paper, so that's negotiated when she buys it, and so I'm not sure what the rate of return is.
that's why we put it there for that
And
reason.
what's the term on that?
It's above 4%. 5%.
It depends on what she bought, and I'm not familiar with what
I can
I don't
find
have
it.
that off the top of my
I can
head. I
find
can
it
go
for
look.
you.
That's
just
okay, I
don't
just
have
was
it.
curious.
And then the money in class is earning, just over 5%.
The unclassified?
Call it class, it's like a
Class,
muni,
gotcha.
It's a municipal
Right.
investment.
Right, I remember that.
Mhm.
Okay, thank
all
you.
the entities use it.
That's right.
All right, Gus, do we got the landscaping bill on here?
Well, I just added it.
So you got both of them on there, the bigger one?
There's two for 1380 for water, and then there's the 34,450. So I added 37,210. Which is what brought it up to the 1504, 154.
You got the 8,500 for the next one.
Does that have to be paid now?
Doesn't matter to me. We get paid, I guess we could pay it, he hasn't done it yet.
No,
So we can pay it in November. So let's pay, we'll.
You have to accept the estimates,
Right,
right?
yeah,
not-
Right, so we'll pay that.
All we have to do is log it in.
I mean, he's out there, I just wanna get him some cash flow, right?
No problem.
He's out there.
We have $3.5 million.
So one other thing, I will be on vacation for the November meeting, so for all practical purposes, this is my last meeting.
Oh. Well, thank you, Sam.
I will, before I leave, I will, have your list of bills and I'll get you the financial report. I'll send it to Bob so he can forward it on to people.
Well, we're gonna talk to Sandy later about that, but again, Sandy she's been here at the beginning of the boulevard. you know, starting. So again, it's just like, it's amazing the history that she has and citing
33
the
years.
numbers. So yeah, 33 years doing it, so. And again, that boulevard, like, you know, some people wanna make it a bike lane, but that has been great for the community. It's helped residential areas as well as business. That thing is an artery for Scio Township, so thank you, Sandy, for.
Were you here when DDA started? Right after,
No, I came just a couple years later.
before Doug,
No,
after Doug,
Doug,
Luan?
I think he might have been here when I started, but we got here right around the same time. I'm the one that incorporated the DDA books into the township books. Used to be kept off on its own little world.
Thank you for all your work all these years.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Alright, so we gotta take a roll call on the bills.
Someone has to
We
make a
have-
motion.
Yeah, there's no.
Make a motion, we'll pay the bills.
Gus,
I second it.
Motion second.
Gus and Jay?
Sure. Roll call. Roll call. All those in favor, Ryan?
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Gus, Tim,
Yes.
Will?
Yes.
Linda?
Yes.
Bob, yes. Motion passes. Thank you, guys. Anything else to add? Old business again, we still gotta do the long-term goals for the DDA. We've got most of it done. Bus contract is finally done. Took 3 years to get it. It was about a single page letter that every attorney in Ann Arbor saw. It took 3 years to get done, so we finally signed it.
We don't own any of that anymore.
No, we
No
don't own it.
liability, no
We don't
responsibility.
own it.
Well,
Good going, Bob.
the ones that they're not using, the AA.
Oh, yeah, I get, yeah, you're
They
right.
still own that.
So the one on before, in front of Scio Farms, we probably own. Cause they're not using it yet, but that's exactly why I want to get the bus to go 4 miles more.
So have we roped it off?
No. Kids use it for, kids use it.
Is it insured?
It is insured. Okay. So that's what we have, yeah, we have all that insurance for that one bus shelter.
Does Wave use it?
Yes.
And then maintenance responsibility, we'll talk about that in 2005. And the roads are just extended, then extending the DDA again. We supposedly had an EIN number with the government for the DDA separately. Ryan, that could be a good project for you. But we called them, mailed them, they said snail mail 6 months ago, no response, so.
How
I
many
think to
times,
come up with a
did
new
you try
one.
and fax the form? That's how I finally had to get mine.
Let's come up with it.
I had to send about 15 faxes at different times of the day over about 3 or 4 business days.
I got tired of hearing from
And they sent me 2 different EIN numbers, so.
You can take your pick.
Choose which one you want to use.
We should have our own, yeah, we use Sios for everything, our bank accounts is under Sios, but I think we should have our own.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments from the board? All right,
To adjourn.
good. Yeah, motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
So that was Bill was motion, Ryan was second?
Yes.
Okay.
There'll be some follow-up if somebody wants to volunteer for the road committee, we'll do it, you know, we'll get some other people on these, maybe the bus committee from the DDA, so I'll follow up with a email to you.
Transportation is how we're.
Okay, tricks for you.
See nothing.
So the post office.
Next meeting is November, and we'll see about meetings
I have.
next year.
Mhm.
Last 3 weeks there.
If any of us will be here.
I've gotten quality filters next to it. You can take mail over to them probably every other.
Bella all the time, but that's like supervising for over here.
Yes.
And I'm like, I don't know if this lady just doesn't. Post officer, she's wrong, but like we do similar.
Yeah, we get mail back and forth from each other.
I got $160,000.
Yeah, we brought over 160.
Oh, yeah, that was good day.
We've been waiting for me to get, you know, how come we haven't gotten paid yet?
That's crazy.
We can't have the meeting on November 11th, the second Monday, it's Veterans Day.
Oh,
Public building, we cannot use.
This is.
that's a